Hello my nakamtachi, this is JoyGirl, and we are back from a chapter break with our review of chapter 1028. This week, our Joy Fleet artists also took a break, but we still have a winner in Jewelry Bonnie, who is in a soba noodle eating competition with some sea otters, and it was fitting to see our sole female supernova on the fan requested cover page, given how heavily this chapter centered around the worst generation, which really does bring us to the review. So first, let me start with the Killer vs Hawkins fight because I really enjoyed this one. The obvious theme of this match, like we also saw in the brief Kid vs Apu early in the raid, is about loyalty, and I find the exchange between Killer and Hawkins' dialogue quite interesting in that it seems to me that Hawkins is being made out to be having second thoughts about his decision of joining Kaido, as opposed to have tested his luck against the world's strongest creature. In particular, Killer's dialogue heavily hints that Hawkins is having regrets of not standing his ground and is now witnessing those who chose to oppose Kaido survive. There are individuals, particularly Kid and Killer, who are now living the future that Hawkins thought he wouldn't survive in the past. So what I find so interesting is that not only was Hawkins disloyal to his temporary alliance with Kid and Apu, but in some ways he was also disloyal to himself, his own dreams and desires in being a pirate. Being one of the supernova and a fellow member of the worst generation, and having once seen each other as rivals, along the way Hawkins lost his identity. And as a former pirate who was once confident in his skills to challenge the new world only to succumb to fear, Hawkins wanted to win this match not only to beat Killer, but to prove that he made the right decision in bowing down to power, and this makes me highly anticipate as to what Hawkins' stance will be after losing to Killer. You guys know I've said for a while that Hawkins will be switching sides, so this loss feels like another seed planted for the potential Hawkins turning to the Alliance's side plotline, now believing that there is another future apart from those that his tarot cards once foresaw. Speaking of tarot cards, this was a very fun chapter that sent me down a very interesting dive researching the art of tarot reading, and this is what I gathered. The first card which Hawkins drew, Death Upright, means the end, new beginnings and letting go. And the second card was Tower, which means great change and upheaval to the current order, as was also explained in the chapter. So both these cards really fit well with the potential, or dare I say, likely future of the end of the current order of the Yonko and the great change to bring about a new generation of fearsome pirates. So I personally interpreted this to suggest Hawkins accepting that it is now time for the new generation. What piqued my interest even more, however, was that small panel where we see 3 distinct tarot cards as Hawkins falls. And according to my research, these cards can tell a story. If you interpret these cards from right to left, which is how we read manga, it is very demonstrative of Hawkins' current predicament and may even be a hint for his future. The first card seems to be the 7 of Wands reversed, and this signifies defeat, overthrown, giving up, which aptly fits his loss to Killer. The second is Judgment reversed, meaning indecisiveness, self-doubt, lack of self-awareness. This could be a reference to Hawkins doubting his decision to join Kaido's crew, which was being hinted at earlier in the chapter. And the last one in the bottom left seems to be the 9 of Swords reversed, and this one can mean light at the end of the tunnel, recovery, letting go, learning to cope and face life. And whilst this one remains to be seen, this could be interpreted to suggest that the light at the end of Hawkins' currently dark tunnel will be him joining the Alliance. Him fighting for himself and his generation against the old order could be how he goes on to reclaim his identity as a formidable pirate and not just a meek rookie who tucked his tail in the face of more fearsome foes. But of course this is still yet to be seen, because as for now, Hawkins lost the hand that he himself dealt, and the one who handed his defeat to him was of course Killer. The loyalty between Killer and Kid has always been the point of curiosity for me and was ever so piqued in this chapter. We've seen the extent of Killer's devotion before, given that's the reason he ate the Smile Devil Fruit, but this was an occasion where we witnessed it firsthand on screen. Killer swallowing his pride to actually plead with Hawkins just made it feel so real. So please Oda, bring on their backstory, because I am more and more excited for a joint flashback between these supernovas. The close relationship showcased in this chapter was very familiar to the loyalty we've seen amongst the Straw Hats, so even without our protagonists, we had just enough heartwarming moments to make us feel grounded and invested in this chapter. As for the actual fight itself, oh man, was I entertained. I think this fight also really added to the beauty of One Piece in the sense that even if the chapter wasn't centered around the main characters or even a legendary figure from the past, the battle battle between Killer and Hawkins delivered on the intrigue attached to these secondary characters who were still developed to have their own relevant personal stakes in the arc. Seeing an extended and climactic fight between two supernovas removed of Luffy and Zoro is so refreshingly awesome. Hawkins looking shocked is a rare sight which I enjoyed, as he is usually not worried about attacks hurting him due to his strawman ability. And Killer in particular, I very much appreciated seeing his unique acrobatic fighting style paired with the motivation that drives him to win. It's such an amazing treat. With my favorite panel being this one, with Killer just gracefully hanging in the air, having delivered the final blow. I actually found this panel also symbolic in a way. Throughout this fight, Killer had been constrained from any movements against Hawkins because of how it would affect Kid, but the way Killer is posing here is the opposite of constraint, as he finally looks like he's been freed of any chains or burdens, having fulfilled what needed to be done for his captain. I think we've all said that Killer's way to victory would be through attacking Hawkins' left arm, which should have no effect on Kid, and in a rare moment, we were right. But the fact that this was an anticipated move didn't make it any less exciting. I think particularly because this whole segment was so wrapped up in these meaningful themes of loyalty and chasing dreams. Killer, however, isn't the only acrobat in this chapter, because geez, Big Mom showed out in this one too, pulling a ridiculous move with a classic attack name pun, courtesy of Oda, as she continues her dominance over the young supernovas Kid and Law, also proving that she can be pretty agile. Whilst the action is amazing as Big Mom continues to be a terrifying force, the main focus of this fight is Kid's struggle as a side plot to the Killer and Hawkins' fight, and something that really stood out to me is Kid's dialogue of finally having the chance to take down a Yonko. Because Kid lost his arm during his fight against the crew of another Yonko, so this naturally brings up the question of whether Kid actually fought Shanks straight up, or did another red-hair pirate fight Kid, which caused him to lose a limb. Based on the inner monologue with Kid thinking that he finally has the chance to take down one of the emperors, it does make me feel like he didn't actually get to personally face Shanks. By the way, thanks to whoever it was that took Kid's arm, it helped him live another day. In an ironic way, losing an arm saved his life. Also, I just want to take this moment to say that to everyone who had been having doubts about Kid, I feel surer than ever that we will see some great moments from him soon. So take this as my premature celebration for when we do get to see Kid shine, because I have a feeling that this metalhead is about to shock you. Speaking of metal, Sanji is Bulletproof confirmed, and it seems that Oda is going to stretch out the plotline of Sanji having to deal with the awakening of his Germa abilities, and to be honest, I am all for it. We spent an entire arc in Whole Cake Island highlighting Sanji's humanity, so personally I think that it would feel rushed if we just skip the story into Sanji just quickly accepting his new power-up, welcoming the results of an idea of a man he detests with open arms. This served another purpose though, because it also added some comedic effect with Sanji running away from Queen, which seems to be setting up for the two to move their fight to a different location, which makes sense in many ways if you think about it. Firstly, it gives the chance for other fights to receive a focus first, leaving Kaido's top officers to be defeated later on. Secondly, if Sanji indeed ends up using the raid suit, perhaps a more open area is required to fully highlight the capability of the suit. Thirdly, it gives Sanji time to figure out what has caused his awakening, which we have suspected to be due to the clash he had with King earlier in the raid, should Sanji's DNA indeed be modified with Lunarian lineage, which acted as the source triggering the experiment's latent ability. Personally, I don't feel too strongly on the topic of whether Sanji's modification will be linked to King's race, but if it is, then I think this could open up to an interaction between the two, and one wish yours truly has is for an extended 2-on-2 battle with Kaido's top calamities and the future Pirate King's wings. But going back to the chapter, running away also makes further sense for Sanji as a character, because if Sanji's biggest worry in acquiring this power-up is that he may lose his emotions and becomes an unfeeling monster like his siblings, and if Sanji is thinking that this could become the case, then he is now preparing himself whilst at the same time ensuring the safety of those around him. Because as we've seen before, the Germa 66 have a habit of using soldiers as shields, not caring for their well-being, so in Sanji's mind, it's in everyone's best interest if he is away from anyone he could potentially cause harm to, which I think just reflects Sanji's kindness beautifully. Delving further into this discussion about Sanji's kindness and emotions, I am still steadfast in my belief that Sanji will not lose his emotions. Part of the exoskeleton is that it gives its test subjects a heart of ice. Now, given we know Sanji to have been able to generate flames through his burning passion, I'm going to say that Sanji's flaming heart will win out. But the chapter did make me curious about what Sanji meant about thinking of what to do and figuring his ability out. An idea I have is whether Sanji could figure out how to activate it on and off, especially if part of figuring this out is finding out at which exact moment the latent powers were triggered. Perhaps it will become possible for Sanji to find out how to activate or deactivate the ability. Until then, let's just give this chapter a hand, because even without our protagonists, I was kept on the hook and I am brimming with potential plot development and fights involving so many of the diverse cast of characters at Wano. And I truly cannot wait for it all to unfold. But now that you've heard my thoughts, let me know yours by leaving a comment below. Don't forget to like and share the video, and please do subscribe for more One Piece discussions. You can also join our Joyfleet Discord server for more One Piece related fun, and becoming a Patron member will give you even greater fun in that server. Thank you to our patrons who help support the channel. This is JoyGirl, and I'll see you again soon.